Yo, what's up? My name is James McCool. I'm the owner of PaydirtData.com. Yeah, that's the first big update. Formerly PaydirtDFS.com. Today, we're going to be talking about updates. We're going to be talking about Paydirt as a company. We're going to be talking about how things went in 2025. We're going to be talking about how things should go in 2026. We're going to be talking about an announcement that I just sent out today that I'm pretty excited about. Excuse me. We're also going to be talking about kind of like the industry at large for DFS and for sports betting. I do one of these every year. This year, I'm really late on it. Usually, I end up trying to do this stream at like the end of December. But I just didn't get a chance this year. Things have been really busy. We have an insane 4.5-year-old, almost 5-year-old. He turns 5 this month. Super exciting, but he's also insane. We've just been busy, and we've been busy going through the big announcements that I have for today and trying to get those things set up. So I didn't want to do this until we had those things finalized and until we decided that that things were ready to go. So sorry, one second. I'm dying today. So yeah, we're going to go over how 2025 went for Paydirt. I'm always very open about the financials and about how things are going and how things have changed and all that kind of stuff. And we'll go into the changes that have been made for Paydirt, including a name change and a merger that we just finished up. We'll talk a little bit about what 2026 should look like, any changes, updates, any kind of that kind of stuff. And then we'll get into how I kind of think that the industry is going to change. Talking about things like prediction markets and like the downfall of contest sims, which I think is an important one to talk about. We'll also talk a little bit about the plateau of DFS, which is not to say that it's dying or dead or whatever, but like I think that it's worth talking about where DFS is as a concept and as like a thing to do, right? An industry. And yeah, we'll just talk about all those things. So first off, hope that everybody's doing well. Evening, everyone. Absolutely. Yep, it is evening at 7:45 for me. This one I usually start doing overnights, but I'm going to do this instead tonight because I'd rather do this right now. Let's go ahead and jump over here. Oops. I've not done the thing where I implemented the screen on the screen yet. Hold on. I can do this. All right, entire screen. There you go. Okay, so Paydirt. First big thing. Paydirt DFS is now PaydirtData.com. This is a change that I think was, good on pretty much every way. Paydirt DFS has been obviously a big focus on DFS, which is how it started. When I started Paydirt, it was back in 2020, and it was primarily trying to be a source of interesting and kind of less beaten path models for DFS, right? And now we have traded things over and gone through plenty of iterations of what the site is. And if people remember what the site was initially, the site was literally just like, I accept a donation and I give you models to use, right? Like that was the entire site, and things have evolved quite a bit now. Went through multiple different iterations of how I build out models. At first, it was just embedding Google Sheets, and then I figured out how to code using Streamlit. I'm a Python guy by trade, so Streamlit was a really big unlock for me. And now I've started working through and actually building out like full-scale Next.js apps and using those on the site. So hopefully, as that progression continues, then next year we're hoping, or I'm hoping, that we can end up building out a full web app for Paydirt. Right now it's hosted through WordPress, and there are some limitations to that. And building out the entire site as a Next.js app, I think would work really, really well. And so I'm kind of trying to just get ahead of that and build out the different apps and the different models and tools in Next.js applications so that when the time comes to put together the whole thing, I already have kind of all of the different modules and all the different building blocks put together, and we just need to put it all together into, whole package, right? So anyway, Paydirt DFS was a good beginning, right? But then the industry started shifting more into, oh, well, if you're not also offering sports betting, like you're going to get left behind. And yes, that's absolutely true. You had to start offering sports betting stuff. And the realistic thing here is that the models at Paydirt just were not good for sports betting. The way that I had built out the DFS models was to put a focus on ceiling, a focus on GPPs, a focus on the things that actually win people tournaments and win people money, right? And that was not conducive to sports betting. So I had to take a step back. I think maybe a year and a half ago, back in maybe 2024, I want to say, and rethink the way that I was building out models, and rethink the way that I was handling the sports betting side of things, because I wanted to make sure the offerings were good for both. And now they are, right? Like now we have a positive ROI product in the sports betting markets. I've been keeping track. I haven't posted any bets in the last week, but the last time I checked, we had like a 1.7% ROI or something like that. Really strong for MLB. We got our asses kicked in NFL, but strong for NBA as well, and getting on our way for NHL. So of all the main sports, had a positive ROI so far this year. I'll get back to posting starting tomorrow. But, the betting models were a focus. So we went from DFS as the main focus to then DFS plus sports betting, right? And now at this junction, I want to start focusing more on data overall, right? So for those of you who do not know, I do a lot of consulting and I do a lot of logic work for Fantasy Life. I do a lot of work to help them figure out how to make the tools work, how to deal with the logic, how to deal with the math, all that kind of stuff, right? And with that, I have really come to love the consulting side of things. I've really come to love the side of like, I feel like I should have my face here. I've really come to love the logic problem side of things and putting things together and doing the math and like putting together mock concepts and like putting together functions and all this different kind of stuff, right? So I want to put more of a focus on that stuff starting this year and trying to more expand the business to business side of things. Like the business to customer side is doing well, and we'll talk about that here in a second, but I'd like to expand on the business to business side. And so in order to do that, the focus has to be less on DFS and sports betting and more on data as a concept. So switching over from Paydirt DFS to Paydirt data just makes sense as we continue down this path of the things that I think that I can offer. And not only just me, right? But like the people who now work with me. Over at Paydirt, we now have, after today, like quite a large stable of people who work with me and work together. But I have Arturo, I have a data guy, I have Tribe and Jason who do a whole bunch of content. I have Kiki who does a whole bunch of NHL content, right? Like I have different kind of contributors. I have a whole bunch of different people who are helping me make Paydirt what it is. And we as a group can do a lot of really interesting things with data-oriented solutions. So it just felt right, especially in lieu of like the other things I'm going to talk about on this call, to switch to, or call, fucking this is not a conference call. Of the other thing I'm going to talk about on this stream, it just felt right to make that change, right? Now we're focused more on just data overall, right? Not just DFS, not just DFS and sports betting, but all the data that goes into these things, all the data that goes into making decisions around player and team performances. So we are now Paydirt data rather than Paydirt DFS. Now, if you see on the website anywhere where it says Paydirt DFS, please tag me. Of all of the things I'm very good at, being a website guy is not one of them. Like I do my best, but I am not a website guy. I'm not a front end guy. I'm not like a details oriented guy. I make things work. I make things work well, but I'm not necessarily like the touch up and polish kind of guy. So if you see Paydirt DFS anywhere on the site, just tag me, let me know. It'll be a process over the next couple months, I'm sure, to fix those things. We'll always remember Quaz Watkins. Yeah, I mean, Quaz Watkins was, man, that motherfucker had a ceiling. It It's like 4 years ago, maybe. I don't remember. Maybe 2022, I want to guess. Quez Watkins was showing up every single week with this massive ceiling. And like mathematically, it was right, but that Quez Watkins is one of the reasons why I started truncating distributions, actually. So if you don't know about the Quez Watkins stuff, then you have not been with Paydirt long enough. So yeah, anyway, we are now Paydirt data rather than Paydirt TFS. So that's the first big thing. Second big thing. So in the change from Paydirt TFS to Paydirt data, we are also merging into True DFS. So for those of you who know Bobby Fi and Sheets, those guys have had True DFS over, they've had their site for the last couple of years. And they have done a really good job cultivating a community over there and a really good job putting together a really strong content schedule and nailing a whole bunch of the sports that people don't put enough focus into, right? Those guys and Brandon Cruz cover MMA and PGA and NASCAR and tennis and esports, and NHL, right? Like better than most people in the industry because they find a niche and they find that the edge is still there, so they exploit it. So Paydirt is now going to be their new home. So Bobby and Sheets and Brandon Cruz are coming over and they're going to be doing content and helping Paydirt grow in all of these different ways and being more robust in the modeling side, being more robust in the content side, being more robust in terms of presence and GPPs, right? Like adding pros to the roster. I mean, it's a really, really cool thing to be able to work with people that I have known and talked to and like been friends with for so many years. I met Bobby years ago at an MLB Live final, and him and I hung out a lot, and we've been friends ever since. I have talked with and interacted with Sheets for years, talking about the industry at large and my models and like why I do the things that I do and kind of all that kind of stuff. And Brandon put together a really, really good NASCAR product and has come into his own as a player as well, kind of like as a professional DFS player. So it's just really cool to be able to finally have those guys come over to Paydirt and start to get acquainted with the systems over there. So that is effective as of today. Bobby and Sheets and Cruz are going to be doing content over at Paydirt. So if you like the content that they've put together over at True DFS, and if you've liked any of the content that they've put out for the industry overall, then you're going to want to come over to Paydirt. It's going to be awesome to have those guys. That I think they're just going to power things up in so many ways. Like the thing that I'm really, really good at is building, right? So for Paydirt, what I do is I build all the tools. Like anything that you see over on Paydirt is, 99% of the things that you see over at Paydirt, I have built, with the exception of a couple tools, specifically like Hatter's tennis stuff, right? Everything else I have built out. So the thing that I'm not good at is one, selling things. I'm fucking bad at that. And two, putting together a consistent content schedule. It's no surprise that like y'all get about 16 weeks of NFL content from your boy, and then I'm like tapped out for the year. I can't keep up with NBA and MLB and NHL and esports and PGA and like I just can't keep up with it. All of my bandwidth, or the vast majority of my bandwidth, is spent building out models for people to find success. So having these guys over here, having Bobby over here, having Sheets over here, having Cruz over here, and also their second content creators as well, having Adam Perry over here, who's been doing a whole bunch of NHL content for those guys, having Rody over, who wants to do some MLB content, like having these guys all come in and help really fill out the content is going to be huge for not only me, right, and not only Paydirt, but for subscribers to Paydirt, right? It's going to be just huge to really get people using the models and using them every single week and every single day and showing, how we're doing X, Y, or Z, how we want to approach this slate. I'm really excited about it. So, if you have not tried Paydirt yet, or if you're not a subscriber, or if you've tried it in the past and you have moved on from it, come try again. I'm willing to hand out a couple free months, couple 50% off coupons, all that kind of stuff. So come give Paydirt a try. I think you'll really enjoy it. Sheets is super sharp with MMA ownership and game theory. Yeah, absolutely. And he's already started giving me the ownership that he uses for MMA. Those are already powering the MMA models over at Paydirt. So, again, like it's just going to make it so that things are, better overall. And he is a super nice dude in general. Yeah. Sheets is incredible. So with that, there are like a couple questions that come along, right? One of the bigger questions is going to be am I going to include SaberSim over at Paydirt? Fuck no. Like, I think the portfolio manager can do everything that SaberSim can do just as well. It's a different process. It's a different kind of mindset, but I don't think that subscribers from TrueDFS need to have SaberSim to find success. I think that they can use portfolio manager and find just as much success, right? That's going to be the big question. The second question is going to be like, how is this going to affect like things like NASCAR and MMA and PGA? So I have already built out a model for NASCAR with Brandon Cruz, right? Him and I have already talked at length on how NASCAR is scored and all of the different things around NASCAR. I built out a model. It's going to go up on the site. It's already live. It's got a range of outcomes built around it. And we're going to make sure to utilize that to the fullest extent. We're also going to make sure that we can tweak the kind of projections that get put into it, the different floor and ceiling outcomes, variables, all that kind of stuff, exactly the way that Brandon likes them, so that whatever he wants his portfolio to look like can then also be passed on to subscribers over at Paydirt. So we're going to have a really, really, really strong NASCAR product this year, which I'm super excited about. And he's going to be doing NASCAR content on this channel as well. So, look out for that. From a PGA standpoint, like Sheets and Bobby break down PGA every single week. They're going to start doing that for Paydirt as well. We're going to be using the Paydirt models. We're going to be using the ownership. We're going to be using the different tools, portfolio manager, all that different kind of stuff, right? Similar to the way that I broke down the Farmers Open this last week, but obviously better because they're better at PGA than I am. Also with MMA, right? Like Sheets does a breakdown of MMA from not only here's what the card looks like and going over the odds and stuff, but also from here's the lineups that I want to build. And his process probably isn't going to change at all. Like you're still going to see these guys go through the process that they have had. It's just going to also include the Paydirt models. And it's also going to include the know-how of these guys, right? So it's going to be just the best of both worlds on either side. And that doesn't even get into the main sports, right? MLB, NBA, NHL, and NFL. Like we're going to continue to push hard on those schedules. We already had a pretty full NFL schedule. We had shows Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday last year or this year, right? And then we also had my articles for Showdown season on Thursdays, Sundays, and Mondays. We're going to extend that out as well. We're going to have more on Fridays. We're going to have more on Sundays. Like we're just going to have more for NFL overall. MLB, we're going to have multiple weekly shows. For NBA and NHL next year, like we're going to have Adam Perry doing NHL stuff, assuming he would like to. We're going to have plenty of NBA content. Like it's just going to be really, really nice to have all of this stuff, right? And on top of all of that, it'll make the models better. It's going to make it so that I can take the expertise that Bobby has in NBA and apply it to the models. Like he thinks that we're too high on minutes here. He thinks that this adjustment is too low or, all that kind of stuff, right? Again, that gets passed on to subscribers over at Paydirt because I can build this stuff into the models. I don't have hubris that says that I can model better than anybody else in the world. I don't think that I can. I think I can model just as well. But having the expertise of people who are really, really good at DFS in these specific sports just makes it so that the models can be better. It wouldn't surprise me if Paydirt, which already had industry standard or above projections and ownership, ends up being the best ownership in the industry. That wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. I think we can keep up with the projections of anyone in the industry outside of maybe ETR for NBA. But like anybody else, Paydirt is going to be there or above. It's going to be a really, really strong year for 2026. So that is that. Paydirt DFS is now Paydirt Data. True DFS is now a part of Paydirt. I am still bald, but I did get new tattoos, so that's cool. Oh, this is a good question. Will I charge more? Yes. I'm not quite sure how much though. I still need to deliberate that this week, but yes, we're going to be charging a little bit more. It's not going to be anything crazy. It's either going to go up to $45 or $50. I'm not sure which one yet. It just kind of depends on how the next month goes, right? So one of the big things is obviously absorbing these guys into Paydirt means that I have more people to pay, right? I have to pay more content creators. I have to pay for more data, right? And also on top of that, Paydirt has been $40 for the last 2 years for a full month, right? And I need to keep up with inflation because I don't know if you've noticed, but inflation is kind of getting a little crazy in America. So, I am going to have to raise prices this year for the MLB season. I am not sure what price that's going to be yet. It's either going to be 45 or 50. It's not going to be anything crazy. I'm leaning a little bit more towards 50 just so that I can make sure that I'm able to pay everyone that I need to pay and be able to like keep things going and being profitable. But we'll see if the next month, like people are super stoked on the True DFS like acquisition and, we end up getting an influx of customers for PGA, MMA, and NASCAR. If we can get like 100 new subscribers for those sports, it'll just be 45. If we can get only like 25, then I'll probably have to raise it up to 50. So we'll just see. But yes, for the MLB packages, it is going to go up to either 45 or 50. But it's not going to be anything that is like, from 40 to 85, right? Like that's not me. Paydirt is always going to be an affordable place for people to play and learn and, get into a DFS sports betting and prediction markets community. That's what I want it to be. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about how 2026 went, right? I always talk about this stuff. I think that it's good to be transparent about the way the company is going. So I am happy to say that Paydirt made more money in 2025. So let's go ahead and jump in here. I have my Stripe portal pulled up here. So overall, for gross volume, ended up with 113K made from Paydirt last year, 6% increase over 2025. Net volume was 108, around, again, 6% increase over 2025. Really happy with that, right? The other cool thing is we actually had less new customers in 2026. We had 20% less new customers, but the average spend of each customer was more. So from a business standpoint, that's great. I don't really care so much about getting new customers. Like customer acquisition is good. I'll talk about retention here in a second. But like if 284 new customers came through, but I was able to make an extra 6% in terms of margin, that's fine. Let's see other things. So the cool thing that we were able to do here, so we had about the same amount of successful payments, but the cool thing that we were able to do here was we were able to maintain through the cold months, right? So baseball season, as everyone knows, is a little bit lesser, right? And you can see in 2025 or in 2024, which is what this is comparing to. Sorry, I should have been saying that. In 2024, you can see that we had like a pretty big downturn, right? Like at our lowest point, we had 144 total subscribers on the site, July 21st, right? And this is MLB season. But we were able to kind of maintain a little bit better, right? We were able to sit somewhere between 15 and 20% above 2024, pretty much all of MLB season, which feels pretty good. And then as soon as we hit NFL season, we see this really, really nice jump up to a 30% increase in subscribers, kind of like across the board, right? And then once we get into, November and December, then things start to kind of equalize a little bit. And now we're sitting at a little bit less, right? Like we had more subscribers in January or in December of 2024 than we did in 2025. But this month, I'm not showing January right now because I'm just trying to compare the actual years. This month, we are up about 13% in terms of revenue. I'm not sure if that's in active subscribers or if it's just in spend overall, but overall, I really like to see this kind of thing, right? Like we're hoping that we can continue to improve and bolster these cold months because one of the things about this industry that people don't talk about is fucking everyone makes their money in NFL season. Like every single company in this industry makes their money in NFL season. Outside of like, I can't even think of a company that does well during MLB season. It's the dead zone, right? So being able to raise the tides there and keep people on the site and keep people subscribed through those months is a big focus for me this year. One of the ways that we're going to be doing that is by offering better best ball content, right? I don't ever expect Paydirt to be like a best ball hub. Maybe we get there if people really, really want it. there, right? But I don't ever expect it to beat out the likes of Fantasy Life or Fantasy Points or like, I don't know, these other sites that offer like really, really dedicated best ball content. I don't know that we'll ever be that. But I do want to make sure that we offer better best ball content than we have in the past because it is really popular and it is something that people will pay money for, right? So I am working through and brainstorming the best way to handle best ball stuff. A couple ideas that I have are like combinatorial ownership projections and like working through like mock, like simulated drafts, right? Like not like the same thing that everybody does where it's just like, oh, well, here's a mock draft based on ADP. Like I don't really think that that's super useful. But what I do think would be cool would be having something that tells you like, oh, here is how far above you should draft X, Y, or Z player based on the current lineup that you have, right? Or this is how often these two players are drafted together. Like if you were to draft Puka Nacua, like you're very likely to also draft Colby Parkinson or some shit, right? So in order to be a little bit different, instead of drafting Colby Parkinson down there and completing your Ram stack, draft a different player, right? Something like that. Being able to do a better job of helping people draft in pods that give them better relative value, I think fits the ethos of what Paydirt is. And building out tools that do that, I think would be really, really useful and be something that people would find very useful. Also being able to build out, kind of like a little dashboard thing that shows you what your lineups look like and what your exposures are. Like that's almost table stakes at this point if you want to have a best ball tools suite. So anyway, I want to put more focus on best ball. I'll have more talk on that in the future. That's not really for this video, but I felt that it would be good to say because like with this stuff, like that really matters, right? We want this to move up. We want to try to maintain this 200 subscriber barrier and then push it up into 300 subscribers or so for NFL season. I think that's kind of what my goals are. The other thing that I wanted to point out here that's really, really nice is the churn rate. My churn rate is really, really fucking good. I say this all the time. But one of the things that Paydirt does better than most people in the industry is keep people happy, right? Like once you have found the Paydirt community, once you have gotten integrated into the Paydirt tools, not very many people leave. People are really happy with the products and the tools and the models that I build, and so they stay, right? Like, yeah, I only had 193 new subscribers, and that's not that much, right? But it's because I had so many that stayed, right? I only have a 13% churn rate over at Paydirt. That's terrific. So being able to keep that would be really, really nice. You can see that like the churn is obviously much higher in February. It's always higher in February as people are unsubscribing from things and getting themselves back oriented. And then, we come into April and May, and then, MLB season wears on a little bit and the churn rate is a little bit higher, but then boom, as soon as people come into, the months where it starts to matter, like people are happy, right? The churn rate is really, really low. So overall, Paydirt is in a really, really good spot from a financial standpoint. It's also worth saying that Paydirt as a company, right, was able to double its revenue because I was able to consolidate revenue sources. Another thing that the TrueDFS merge will do will also continue to bolster that bottom line. I'm hoping to be able to build Paydirt up from a $200,000 company, which is basically what it is right now, up to a $300,000 company in 2026. The goal is eventually to get it up to a $600,000 or $700,000 a year company. And, that would be when I would feel like we're in a really, really good spot. But that's, a couple of years down the line. In order to reach that point, it's not going to come through DFS. It's not going to come through sports betting, right? Like that's going to come through business to business relationships. That's going to come through other routes of revenue. That's going to come through, probably building out like a consulting arm or something like that to Paydirt and making it so that we can consult for data and databasing and like different kind of data pipelines and, all that kind of different stuff that I talked about at the beginning of this, which is why we made the change to Paydirt data. So that was 2025. Good year overall. I'm really, really happy with it. Let's see. I wanted to go check in on the Discord really quick and see how things are going. Let's see. So overall in 2026, like I said, I think that our goal is likely going to be to continue to expand out of just DFS and sports betting, right? And there's a couple different ways to do that. So one is best ball, which I already talked about. Two is prediction markets, which I'll talk about kind of more at length here in a second. And three is business to business and handling data and stuff like that, right? So I think that best ball is like the lowest hanging fruit. I can build tools for that. That's not going to be hard. And I think that it's going to continue to be a really, really big focus for the industry. I was hoping that it would die down in popularity. It has not. So now I have to build models for it. But rest assured, I'll have really good models for that. The second thing is so the second thing is business to business. So trying to build out more relationships where I can continue to expand the consulting offerings, continue to expand maybe holding data for other companies, continuing to expand whitelisting, Paydirt's projections and ownership to other companies, stuff like that, right? Being able to help people manage, create, and distribute better data. So that's going to be another thing that is a focus for Paydirt in 2026. The third thing is going to be continuing to improve the look of the site, right? So here is how the site had looked up until very recently, right? Like if you went over and looked at the models on the site, this is basically what you would see, right? This was the range of outcomes that was built out. And you know, it was fine. This was after many iterations. Color coding is there. You know, we have all the different things. You can select different views, all that different kind of stuff. But now when you go over and look at Paydirt, what you see is this, right? And this is a fully integrated Next.js app that looks clean. It's much stronger. It's much faster. It has much more bells and whistles. You can go through and it's really, really fast, right? Like as soon as you switch different things, you can choose different kinds of showdowns. There's a hand builder involved now, which is a full out, like really, really strong hand builder that you can use now that rivals that of other companies, right? Like I always make the joke that I just want Pablo to use the hand builder here instead of keeping his fucking Fantasy Lab subscription alive. Like all I want is for Pablo to use the hand builder that I built. And he finally is, right? Like he's actually using it now because it works really, really well. Like when you want to build things out here, you can just like start with optimals, right? You can go through, oops. This actually might be broken right now because it's after lock, but I swear to God, it works really, really well. No, there it is. Okay, yeah, it just took something to show up. You can do a lot of different things with this. You can load medians. You can load ownership. You can save things, right? And it saves it as this nice little card where you can compare things against. Like the hand builder is really, really nice now. The pivot finder is included in the range of outcomes now. There's full optimal suite. There's the portfolio manager. Like we have all these different things, right? But the main thing here is that it looks nicer and it's much faster and the usability is better. So just continuing to put a lot of focus on these kind of things where I can continue to build tools that people want to use and feel good using and don't feel that they need to go elsewhere to find that functionality. Like that's going to continue to be a big focus for me. Like I said at the beginning of this, eventually the plan is to turn Paydirt into a full out web app, right? And to probably build out a mobile application. In order to do that, I need to make sure that everything is functional and working as an actual web application module so that we can get it all put together and bundled together, right? So as I continue to go through, like what you'll see is all of the range of outcomes, betting models, these are rebuilt as Next.js apps. And I'm going to handle the research stuff next, I think. Actually, I'll probably handle the portfolio manager next, but that thing is a fucking bear. I've been trying to rewrite it, and the math is just a bitch. Python math does not translate super well into TypeScript. Still working on it, still learning that language. But next will be the portfolio manager, and then I'll work on the esports stuff. And then it'll be time to work on the research sheets. So by the end of the year, I hope to have all of the models and tools and all of the research sheets rebuilt as actual Next.js web applications, which is just going to continue to help with usability. It's going to continue to help with speed. It's going to continue to help with uptime, like all of these different things. Systems are just going to continue to get better. Let's see. Way better, James? Yeah, fucking by miles. Miles, right? Okay, so then the kind of like the last thing, and this is going to go into like how I think that the industry is going to be doing things in 2026, is predictions markets, right? I want to build things for predictions markets. And fun fact, I actually went out and I did a whole bunch of research and a whole bunch of study and built out like some exploratory models on like securities and companies, right? I was building things out to go out and build and train off of like the markets so that I could start building out similar to the way that you see these things, right? Like similar to the way that you see this, like a markets app for like fucking Apple and Microsoft and, you know, S&P 500 companies, right? And I still want to do that because I think it's fun. It's fun to kind of explore into those different areas. But two, I think that if you're not focused on that stuff, you're gonna bleed a lot of equity just in this space, right? Like, as much as we like to say that this space is about sports and it's about like coming together to get action down on the game, while it started like that, like it started as a way for people who were really into the season-long stuff to get into daily stuff, we will see that same transformation from DFS and sports betting into predictions markets. It'll absolutely fucking happen, assuming, of course, predictions markets maintain legality. If a company in this space is not focused on trying to make that transition and bridge the gap from predicting performances of sports players and teams into companies in the markets, I think that they will likely be writing their own death certificate. It's just going to be something where, like I said, we like to think of ourselves as people who just really like sports and want to get action down. But what we really are and what we have transformed into is people who really want to get action down on fucking anything, right? There's a reason why predictions markets have exploded in popularity, and it's because people just want to get their fucking action down. And I have this whole thing about like, God, I'm not going to go fully on the soapbox, but in the same way that hunting down and killing a tiger used to be like a Neanderthal's way to prove his worth to society, that is basically what hitting for a large parlay or payday in predictions markets or sports betting markets is to the modern man. We don't go out and kill tigers anymore. We hit 11-leg GPP or 11-leg SGPs, right? Like, it's kind of a fucked up way to think about things, but like, give it a little bit of thought. A man's worth is now more tied to his ability to like figure out a way to keep the society going and to keep his family alive. And what better way to do that in nowadays than to be able to procure a large amount of money quickly, right? So while I think that's unhealthy, it just is what it is. So I think we've all kind of turned that way. LFG, yeah, I agree. I mean, look, if I can build out a cool predictions market tool, even if it's just for like, you know, S&P and like, you know, different world's markets, like even if it's not will fucking Barbara Streisand wear black heels to the Emmys or some shit, right? Like, I mean, nobody can fucking do that kind of shit. But if I can build something out for US-based companies even, I think that would be a win for this stuff. Aren't prediction markets just legalized insider trading? So, I mean, kinda, yes, no, I don't know, dude. They're sweepstakes, right? But if DraftKings and FanDuel and Predict It and Polymarket and Kalshi, if they're all going to be around, people are going to want models People are going to want info into how they should be getting money down, right? And there's two sides of me on this. One, I don't think that anybody should be betting on something that they don't understand and throwing money away. But two, nobody fucking listens to me and they're going to do it anyway. Right? So if I can find a way to help this person while also preaching this, saying, hey, you really shouldn't be doing this, but if you're going to at least be somewhat informed, then I think that I will try to walk that tightrope. But to your point, I wouldn't say that they're legalized insider trading. I would say that they are unregulated financials markets. You can tell from my mannerisms that you may want to take both of those terms with a grain of salt. Anyway, people will want it. I will try to build it. As far as what the rest of the industry does, I have to assume Skotastic will try this. I have to assume that RPS will try this stuff. RPS actually, I think, is more well-positioned to go in that direction than the other like secondary companies, right? Like there's no way that ETR tries this, right? ETR is going to say, we build the best projection models in the industry. We think that our betting models are the best in the industry. That's going to be our bread and butter. And that's just what they're going to focus on. I don't know why they don't expand out to other sports. It seems really silly to me, but like, if that's going to be their identity, they can have that identity. I think that it's fair to do that. RPS, on the other hand, like if there's a company that embodies dudes just getting fucking action down, that's them, right? So they are well positioned to get into the prediction market stuff. 4Deep, who I don't recognize as like a real company, they're just grifters. Like they'll get into the predictions markets for sure. They'll yell about it and be loud and lose people money, but they'll for sure get into it. So I think that you will see plenty of people and plenty of companies in the industry get into prediction markets. I would like to also get into it. But for those who know me, that you know that I'm not going to just like jump into it without knowing how to do it and putting in the work and like figuring out how to build something that is at the very least industry standard. At the very least, if I can't beat the industry, then I will at least be industry standard. So that's prediction markets. All right. Last 15 minutes here. Let's talk a little bit about things that I think are going to be kind of like different about DFS this year. So DFS is in a weird spot. It's very clear that both DraftKings and FanDuel only maintain DFS as like a backroom poker table, right? Like we, the degens that are really good at it and trade money back and forth, like we're going to keep playing. But I think the last time that we checked, we pulled the numbers and it was like 6% of DraftKings operating revenue or something, like an abysmally small amount. For FanDuel, it's the same. They're both like under 10% of their total operating revenue is going towards DFS. So like we're the poker table dudes while everyone else is playing slots, right? There's like two tables on the sixth floor of the Bellagio while everyone else is playing slots. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but we're a niche at this point. So, we shouldn't expect to see a whole lot of new blood enter the water. We shouldn't expect to see a lot of customer acquisition. There's a caveat to this that I will mention here in a second, but we shouldn't expect to see that customer acquisition. So I think that what we will consider to continue to see is consolidation of ownership. We're going to continue to see people, 150 maxers, continue to swing ownership relatively wildly, right? We're going to continue to see contest sims be basically pointless, and I'll talk about that here in a second. And I think what we will mostly see is if you are playing anything but GPPs, you're kind of fucked, right? Like playing cash games, double ups, head to heads, that shit I think is probably like dead in 2026. The people who are playing at this point are, for the vast majority, people who know what they're doing, right? I kind of equate it to League of Legends. I've been playing League of Legends now for about 5 years. Whatever. I fucking hate it, but I still play it. I lost a game today. But the thing is, like, when I started playing and my CS sucked, I'm gonna use some nerd terms here. But like when my farming sucked, I knew that it sucked, but it like everybody kind of sucked together, right? This is like 5 years ago. I would average like 110, 120 CS a game or something like that. And I was playing mid lane. And like I'd play ADC and I'd have like 110 CS. I'd have like 100 CS. But like everybody kind of sucked together. Like everybody was like the average people were averaging like 5 to 6 CS per minute. And now I jump back on like that same account from years ago. Jump back on this year. And like obviously it dropped me into like fucking bronze -6. And like I can farm now, right? Like I'm averaging like 200 CS. But and this is like bronze, everyone is averaging like 200 CS now. Like even the players who I can tell are shit terrible at this game are averaging like 200 CS. The floor of even the bad players has just gotten so good. It's just table stakes to not be a shitter at League of Legends now. I think it's the same thing for DFS. It's just table stakes to understand how to play cash games now. Like everyone has good projections. Everyone has an optimizer. Everyone has a way to build a lineup that doesn't suck dick. Nobody, like very few people are playing a player who got ruled out 20 minutes before lock, right? Like it might have been like 10% of people a couple years ago. Now it's like 1%, right? So the floor has gotten so much higher in DFS. So I think, man, these like low margin areas, I don't even know why we would play them anymore. Like cash games, double ups, head to heads, man. Like you're just competing against people who just like are putting together the good lineups. Whereas you were able to make maybe 3, 4, 5% ROI on that stuff before, like you're just fucking breaking even if you're good. So I think we probably see like that as not a viable thing that we should be doing. We should really just be focusing on GPPs and beating the field, right? Like I don't even think that projections are a thing anymore. I don't even focus on anymore. If you're not focusing almost entirely on ownership now, like entirely on ownership, like you're just dead in the water, dude. You're just going to die this year as a DFS player if you're not focusing on ownership almost entirely. If you're not focusing on, I know that this player should be this much owned and will be this much owned, but then because of this, he's going to be more owned. So I need to, like, if you're not focusing on ownership first and foremost, you're playing DFS wrong in 2026. Just point blank. And tools that I've built out have a heavy focus on ownership, have a heavy focus on leverage. The portfolio manager builds almost everything based off of ownership at this point. Like projection is only there for reference. That's just how you got to build this year. So I think we will likely see the margins continue to shrink on like the very basic table stake shit. And I think that we will see massive opportunity to take advantage of the field, being overconfident in projections because it's just not the thing that matters anymore. Metagame feels like it becomes the game. Game theory on what Sims are telling everyone to do. Yeah, so let's talk about Sims for a second. So contest Sims were good-ish for Showdown in 2025, but they fucking sucked for regular. Like for regular contests, they were bad. You know what crushed it in 2025? Saying, fuck the Sims, I'm just going to play like GTO. I'm just going to play Game Theory Optimal. Because the people who use contest Sims and the contest Sim said, hey, this player is over-owned or this player is like not owned enough, they would get away from Game Theory Optimal to put together things that would leverage the field, and then they would just get fucking torched like all year. Because what ended up happening is if a player looked to be under-owned, people would use contest Sims and then they would be appropriately owned. But the player who is supposed to be appropriately owned would come in under-owned. And then that player would be Game Theory Optimal and they would be under-owned because contest Sims told people to play somebody else. It's because of this stuff. And I talked about this in the 2024 review and talking into 2025. how people would have an over-reliance on what contest sims said to do. And they did, right? Like, it burned a lot of people. Granted, this NFL season was a fucking chalk bomb, and it was the worst. I'm glad that it's over. But, we've seen it for NBA. Like Jeremy, JQ King can talk a lot about it, how contest sims are telling people to do things. And he's just like, that's fucking stupid. It's fucking stupid. So because of that, in 2026, I am going to be sunsetting contest sims. I don't think that we need them anymore. I think that it was a fun experiment. It was a fun little industry-wide experiment. It was great. We spent a whole bunch of capital to fucking build out these tools. I just don't think they're that useful. Like, we have seen now that what you should probably be doing is focusing on good lineups that have relative value. It's not about the individual players. It's not about like simulating content, like lineups against each other. It just doesn't do anything. All it does is just tell you to make worse decisions, right? And who knows if it pays out, right? So I think contest sims are likely going to be something I put way less focus on in 2026. The portfolio manager does a really, really good job. It's robust. We have an optimals tab. Like, over at Paydirt, I don't think that I'm going to continue to use contest sims at all. In fact, I changed my systems almost entirely to start using the contest sims less and using the portfolio manager more in my showdown sims and in my showdown season articles. And those showdown season articles fucking crushed it after I started using the portfolio manager instead. So contest sims, I think, are likely going to be something that I just focus a lot less on. And I think that people who continue to focus on them are likely going to continue to make suboptimal decisions, but then be able to say, oh, but the sims. And it's like, well, sims don't pay your grocery bill. So how are my cats supposed to eat EV, right? They're not. My cats need food, and my food will be made by building good lineups. So that is contest sims overall. On, like, with those things said, like the shrinking of margins and how contest sims I think are bad and should stop being used as much as they are. The thing that people are going to focus more on is going to be portfolio managers. Now, I built out the portfolio manager before people started talking about portfolio managers. These motherfuckers need to stop jacking my swag. I think that it is likely going to be much better to be using generators and portfolio like parsers that have built out lineups and allow you to then choose the lineups that you want based on the criteria that you want. I think that is a much better tool than a sim product in 2026. Like, sim products are cool in concept and they're fun to build, but I just don't think that they're all that valuable. I'm just going to say that on record for now. Okay, so let's see. Last things. What the fuck is I going to talk about for last thing? Contest sims, blah, blah. Oh, yeah. The caveats that I was going to say about customer acquisition. So if the sports betting markets get fucking nuked, right? So say that bill that's in the House right now does not pass, the one to like make it so you can write off 100% of your losses. Because right now, currently in 2026, you can only write off 90% of your losses in the sports betting and like in like the betting markets, right? If that maintains, I think that DraftKings and FanDuel will get ahead of it and pour a bunch of money back into customer acquisition for DFS, because they are going to see the writing on the walls that not only are losing bettors having to pay more, winning bettors are having to pay more. So they're going to want to get away from that as well. They're going to go into predictions markets. DraftKings and FanDuel already have that. But like the sports bettors, the people who went from DFS into sports betting and building SGPs and shit, they're more likely to go back into DFS than they are into prediction markets, right? So I think DraftKings and FanDuel will say, oh shit, that bill didn't pass. And states continue to levy higher and higher taxes and higher penalties. Let's push back into DFS. We own a duopoly on the market. We know who our customers are. We have this huge base of people who came over to the sports betting side from DFS and can go back over. I think they'll pour a whole bunch of effort and capital into getting people back into DFS in 2027 or for the 2026 NFL season. That's my prediction right now. And that is if that sports betting law doesn't get turned back, right? If it gets turned back, then they just continue to go full out in sports betting in the predictions markets. But I think that if that sports betting bill stays as it is with that 90% losses, I think that we see an influx and like a push for customer acquisition back in the DFS starting with this NFL season. So, yeah, I think that's everything for me. 2025 was a really good year for Paydirt. 2026 is going to be a great year. We're excited about the True DFS acquisition. I'm excited to have Bobby and Sheets and Brandon Cruz and all those guys come over and do content and make the models and the product better over at Paydirt. I hope that everybody has enjoyed all of the upgrades and updates and all the new tools and all everything that I do, right? Because I do it for you guys. I do it for the people who support me, for the people who subscribe to the site, for the people who have kept Paydirt alive for the last 5 years. I'm thankful to the people who support me behind the scenes. I'm thankful for everybody who believes in the things that happen over there, right? And the community. So thank you guys all so much. I literally don't know what my life would be like without Paydirt. It wouldn't be as good. I can say that. So I appreciate all of you and everything that y'all do for me. So let's just keep building together. Let's keep crushing it and figure out what the next thing to be ahead of is. Bobby used to be with RG. Yes. Yeah, he did. He was with RG and then he went to True DFS and now he's coming over to Paydirt. So excited to have him. Anyway, if you have questions about any of this stuff, you have questions about like the subscription price adjustment, like I'll give updates on that in the Discord before I put it live anywhere, right? If you have questions about what Bobby and Sheets and the other guys are going to be doing with Paydirt, like feel free to ask. If you have questions, if you are a True DFS subscriber and you're coming over to Paydirt and you want to ask questions about what Paydirt looks like and how the models work and all that kind of stuff, feel free to ask, right? I'm always around. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Hopefully this update was cool and you appreciated it. I am going to go eat some ice cream. But thank you all. I love you. And I will talk to you all next.